Now me plug and bianen. Pray blood Jesus, you hear the land me plug. Our Father, who is in heaven,
Honourable members, I wish to inform Parliament that Paul Beres, carrying the casket containing the body of the late Honourable Roy Biama, MP, will be admitted into the chamber with the concurrence of all honourable members. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Sergeant, admit the Paul Beres. Please be seated. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this Parliament expresses its deepest regret at the death of member for Middle Fly, late Honorable Roy Biama, MP, on the 11th September 2021, and places on record its recognition and his long and devoted service to the people of Middle Fly, and extend its profound sympathy to the family and the people of Western Province in the time of loss. He was first elected to the 7th National Parliament in 2002, re-elected to the 8th National Parliament in 2007, the 9th National Parliament in 2012, and the 10th National Parliament in 2007 general elections.
Honourable Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion and wish to take this time to make a speech.
Make a speech.
Mr. Speaker, it is indeed sad that we have lost one of the performing members of Parliament in our time. I wish to take this time for and on behalf of the members of Parliament in the opposition and our families to pay respect and convey our sincere condolences to the families, the people of Middle Fly, the people of Western Province, and those who were closely associated with the late Honourable Roy Biama, member for Middle Fly. Mr. Speaker, the late Honourable Roy Biama was a very silent achiever. He did so much for his people of Middle Fly. He spoke very little. He was very humble, soft-spoken on the floor of Parliament. I spoke and met him a couple of times. He was a man on a mission to transform his electorate. No wonder why his people believed in him and gave him mandate 4 times from 2002 until his passing. He has achieved so much for his people. And I believe it will be very difficult for whoever is going to come and fill his shoes in Middle Fly. But in fact, the fact is that he has left a legacy for his people to remember. And something that all of us seated here must also remember, that most of the members of Parliament seated here may not speak so much on the floor of Parliament, but they do a lot for their people in their respective electorates. And the late Honourable Roy Biama is one of those very few leaders, and I say is a very fine leader for his people of Middle Fly. It is said that we have lost one of the performing members of Parliament. He has held various capacities. He was even minister in various governments in his time, in the last 4 terms that he has represented these people of Middle Fly. I convey our sincere condolences to the family of the late member, the people of Middle Fly, the people of Western Province, and may his soul rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, misana pote dikla sore trulo. Nada mi usiyumina. My profound and the sincerest of condolences. Tamisana Ployena. Pasim Igolo. Good la Mary Blongen. Igini Blongen. Mi Sabelo Plantilo. Olo, long association Blomi one time. The late Honorable Roy Biama. Atulo all get our people Blongen. And we saving for many years. Big Kisim, Big Plasorello, Mia Tuna, you may organize down inside legislative chambers. Time me expressing condolences na, Toxoreblo. Time good la music and me cry. The time cascade and me come inside. The brother blow me and me sleep inside. Me too, me imagine him myself. One blood time. It could be you, Mr. Speaker. Could be me. It could be any one of us with the same flag over the casket. Never blow me and me broke. Silent tears. Me feeling inside low. Boon blow my strength. But Mr. Speaker, we are just mortal beings. There's going to come a time when we all will pass through. Mi hama mas through. Mi hama mas through. That in the time of my leadership and my interactions with brother who is resting, Mila no sabe get one big pla heavy. And one man we no sabe top planting. He listens a lot. The leadership belong in, the perception belong yet in our interactions. Very sincere, very genuine, very focused for his people. And Mr. Speaker, it is in such a times as this, when one of our brothers passes on, all memories have come back. And memories have come back. But that memorable you come back, and when you think of some moments you spent with him, this let us also bring him. For me, I share a lot of memories with him. And thinking of some of those memories breaks my heart today. And Mr. Speaker, we all seated here in these chambers. We all, in our own personal interactions, will have some memories to relate back when one of us passes through. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, lo lewa blomistret. Ilagay ni ogera. That is la respectful space lo. Leadership lo yun. Sambla of good understanding. There is any misunderstanding amongst us. Time is start yet. Good la, Mr. Speaker. Lo interact one time. Lo talk. Lo clear him all this plan. So you can stop good you go because one by time. And by time lo you. I'll point to me like walking lo here and say. Me ogada stablo here. Me stablo 7 more people blow you. I am so grateful that God too, He got somebody intervention law. Appointment blow you mean, this la mandate you make him law. Lead him 7 more people blow you. I'd rather go to my grave with a clear conscience. Whilst we have this life, we must always remember one text that reminds me that our good Prime Minister also shares with us in some spaces of our discussions, in that for what shall it profit of man if he shall gain the whole world and yet lose his own soul. One rich man, Mr. Speaker, he had everything. He had everything. He had all the money he wanted. He was about my same age when he spoke, with all the billions and tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. He said with his money, he can pay for a driver to drive him around. He said with his money, he can pay for a servant to clean his house and to wash his clothes. With money, he could do anything and everything. But when he was sick, with his money, he paid for the best medical attention. Yet, Mr. Speaker, the realization of the fact that the death was already knocking on his doors, and he only had a few weeks or a few days left to live. Yes, he said, my money could do everything for me, except that money could not buy back his life. My dear Speaker, we can accumulate wealth, but let that wealth be the sincerest, honest, hard-worked wealth, Mr. Speaker. These honest gains, accumulated wealth that we can't even spend in our lifetime, even if we have to live 10 times over. Oh, Mr. Speaker, as servants of our people, we must be reminded now when our brother passes on. Why am I here? Am I here for myself? Am I here for my people? Am I here for my country? What do I ask each day? Do I ask to serve my people? Or do I ask to serve myself in public offices that we hold? Mr. Speaker, having said this, Bigla sore blongi lo bara blongi ni ko. Bigla sore lo family blongi. All people blongi. Me just pray yourself. Koran by giving strong long. Especially this la good la marry blongi and by missing it. Because time, brother and Masindan lo dinner table. The wife and the children will miss it. When they need that advice and that guidance and the strength of a father, the wife, the children will miss her the most. May pray by God give him all strength, by give him all comfort, give him all peace. On behalf of my good wife Doris, my children will know my brother, the people of Kompia Mambum, my colleagues of the Liberal Party, the supporters of the Liberal Party, the department that I represent, my good secretary, his deputies, and all the officers, our sincerest of condolences. Love you, my brother. Rest in peace until that resurrection morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Abao.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the people of Abao who I represent, I want to join all of us, the leaders in this honorable house, in passing our most sincere and deepest condolences to the family of the late Honorable Roy Biama, member for Middle Fly. Words cannot express the sorrow and the pain we all know that death brings to the immediate family. So our deep condolences and prayers go with the immediate family, the extended family, the tribe of the late Honorable Roy Biama, and the people of Middle Fly. I want to express a very sincere sadness on this particular occasion because the late Honorable Roy Biama is amongst the 6 of us still living who came in the 2002 national elections and who have continued. With his passing, there's only 5 of us left on this honorable floor. Also, it's a very, very sad occasion, Mr. Speaker, that during this term of Parliament, there have been 4 sitting members of Parliament that has lost us, left us. And I think it's also history that this has never happened before. I'm a nationalist by heart, but on this occasion, out of the 4 that have left us in this term of the 10th Parliament, 3 of them have been from the southern region. And so as a leader from the southern region, I express my most sincere condolences to the family, to the tribe, and the people of Middle Fly and the people of Western Province. And in fact, in this part of the country, it's only 2 of us that have been the longest serving members of Parliament, and I'm the only one left. I want to express a very sincere thank you to the late Honorable Roy Biama for serving the people of Middle Fly, the people of Western and the people of our country with a lot of commitment, enormous passion, humbleness, and the ability to do things in one of the most difficult electorates. Lots of rivers, not many roads, and to fly in and out and come here to Waigani, express his concern about the administration, the delays in development projects, the banking systems, and all of us who were very close to him. Many times he would come to me personally and express his disappointments on why the systems were very slow. But that demonstrated the commitment that this young leader had. And so I really express my sincere thank you to his immediate family, his tribe, for producing such a leader and for giving him such a long time to serve his people. Very rarely, as you and I know, we leaders will serve continuously for the 4 terms continuously, and this man that lays before us has done that. Kaka, thank you bada herea momokani. Oye mu lalokau, oye mu gaukara, oye mu tauniman madekedi aibe, bada herea momokani. Irawa ese bainan narimu ialao hanai hanai. Bamahuta, may your soul rest in God's eternal peace.
The Honorable Member for Aitapelumi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Not too long. Expressing sorrow, gratitude on behalf of people of Aitapelumi, and our supporters, followers of the National Alliance Party, all members of Parliament of the National Alliance Party, may take him this opportunity for giving big bell sore blomipla igolong. Honorable Edro Biama, member of the Middle Fly. Mr. Speaker, I was fortunate to be in cabinet with the Honorable Biama and the late Grand Chief Sir Michael Smara's cabinet from 2002 to 2007. And like what Dr. Pukatemu said, we came in together in 2002, and there are only few of us remaining. Mr. Speaker, in leadership, there are all kinds of characteristics that a leader has. Sampla blomipla mipla is a talk, na sing out, a demonstrative leadership blomipla. In the leadership charisma that possessed by the late honorable member, is a great listener. A man belong sit down the harem, and he will make his decision. And it does not take long for him to make that decision because he was able to listen to all views expressed. And the late honorable member for Middle Fly possessed that characteristics. He was a leader that listens, but was able to get things going in his appointed responsibility. Like myself, people are line belong, rural of Papua New Guinea, Honorable Biama, and me come very remote electorate inside the country, Blayumi. And he was determined from 2002 to try and bring in basic services to his people. And during his time, I know in the number of capacities that are occupied in various governments, he was able to raise issues about making sure that government resources are available in rural areas for him to perform his duty insofar as service delivery to his rural people. He was determined until to the day that he lost his life. We want to take this opportunity to pay our condolences to his immediate family, the people of Middle Fly, and of course the people of Western Province. We have indeed lost a true leader. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister for Transport.
Mr. Speaker, me too, on behalf of my people in Gonla, and without being regionalistic, but on behalf of Pango Party followers in the southern region, I want to convey our sincerest condolences to the family, tribe, people of Middle Fly, and Western Province for loss of a unique leader. Mr. Speaker, I speak hopefully on behalf of the next generation of leaders in this House, trying to understand why a simple, so-called soft-spoken person is able to be voted into Parliament consecutively for a longer period of time by his people. May I challenge all of us here that we all have one life, so we all must endeavor to make economic and productive use of our lives. Many times we on this floor, because of where we sit and difference in opinion, don't value our lives and personalize issues, and unnecessarily create enemies amongst ourselves. Our people send us to this house as brothers, friends, to make decisions for our country. Secondly, in the midst of sorrow, I must say that I am proud that our brother left us doing the best thing, that is serving his people and our people. On this point too, I must say thank you to his family for bearing with him to sacrifice their father to serve their people, this country. Miss House and sacrifice, Papa Godia Tembai, reward him, family belonging. Now people belonging, ni amma sosem. You find value and you find character in this man. That is why you returning to this house 4 consecutive times. Last time, me believe also. Because he was serving you, serving our country and left, me believe also you will find in your heart a replacement who can continue late brother Roy Biama's legacy to serve you and our people in Western Province and Middle Fly. With that, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of people in Golla, may his soul rest in peace. Now he goes to join great men to be cloud of witness to what's over us. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kandep.
Thank you, Speaker. Let me join my colleagues in expressing the condolences and the sympathies of myself, my family, the people of Kandip, and those supporters of our leadership of the Tribal Leaders Empowerment Party throughout Papua New Guinea, the people, to the family, to the wife, the children, to the tribes people and the electorate of Middle Fly. We're very sorry. We're saddened equally as them. We're very sorry for the wife. We're very sad that the children will have missed and will not see the dead, the breadwinner. We're also very sorry that the people of Middle Fly will have lost a great leader in Roy Biama. We're very, very sorry. We share the bereavement at this time, but we also express our support and solidarity that during this time of bereavement they'll be strengthened, they'll be happy, they'll be rejoicing because of the man he was, because who Roy Biama was, his greatness, his perseverance, its hard work, its intelligence, its wisdom in being a good head of the family, a good husband, a good father, and a good leader amongst his people, a member for the people of Middle Fly. The year was 2002, Mr. Speaker, that when the Honorable Roy Biama was elected, I was elected too. I share the same sentiments expressed by the leader of the Alliance Party and the member from Bao, that we were amongst the lot that were elected into Parliament in the 7th Parliament in that year, in 2002. And Roy Biama was a very good team worker. He was soft-spoken, sometimes shy and timid, but he was very determined. He had the eyes of the determination in him. You could see that very clearly in his body, the way he carried himself. He was soft, timid and shy, respecting other people most of the times. Couldn't speak much. So soft as he was, but you could see the heart, the mind of determination, the driving character to deliver to the people that had elected him. Sometimes he found, like all the others did, the complacency that existed in the process of delivery, the challenges that were there, the impediments that he had to come through. Sometimes it frustrates a man, a leader. It would make a man want to give up. But the late Roy Biama was not a man of that kind of a character. We worked together. The challenges were there. The complacency was there. Sometimes the financing was not there. But he persevered. He kept working. He stayed on focus to deliver. It was quite a discussion with colleagues in the same party we were in or in the same cabinet we were in. This is the man he was. I also noticed, Mr. Speaker, that he was somebody who reflected this praise we always speak of another person. Less talk, more action. Or others, they put it this way: let your actions speak your words. Let the language of the body, let the legs and the hands, the body do the work that reflects what is in the mind. He lived that life. He is somebody who walked the talk in his heart. He had come to serve his people, the people of Middle Fly, and he reflected it in his life. That was manifested before him in his activities. And he has been that all through until he had to be recalled to the Maker. It is said, but Mr. Speaker, we should celebrate. Every death is said, every birth is a celebration. But I believe that if you look at a person's life, the character that he lived, like the Minister of Transport said, like the attitude, the mindset, the spirit in that person, you'll find a lot of things that we should be happy and proud about. We should be celebrating their death. We should cry little. We'll be sorry little. Because, Mr. Speaker, the truth, the natural phenomenon remains true all the time. A life passes on, returns to the Maker. The body goes into and disintegrates into the elements of the nature. But what must remain is the character of the person. What must remain is the values that the person lives. The outworking, the attitude, the spirit of uprightness. Being a good leader of an electorate, of a people, of a tribe. Being a good head of a family. Being a father to the children. Those are the characters, the values that must linger on. Those goodness that a person lives must be the light that must guide others who are living. Because, Mr. Speaker, when you celebrate, you cultivate those good things left behind and you build them into yourself. I like to do that with Roy Biama. I find he was soft-spoken, but he had the character and the heart to deliver and deliver. And as a result, he has been elected again and again. As a result, he's been elected again and again. Probably that's a spirit that we should all be wanting to have in us too. The spirit of perseverance, spirit of delivery, less talk, more delivery. Soft in the outward appearance, but inside the determination, the character, the perseverance to deliver to our people. Mr. Speaker, there is a purpose in life I've experienced in my life. And I see amongst us, I think it's a human nature, there's a purpose. All of us are born into this world deliberately, calculatedly, purposefully, with a very important divine purpose. We were born not by accident. We could have been born something else, or we could have been born nothing. But the fact that we are born, there's a purpose. The purpose is divine. It's not of the body. The purpose is a purpose of love. If we have love in us, the desire to serving another person, the desire to respecting another person as an equal soul, the desire to saying yes or saying no when you mean it, the desire to being honest, being true, the desire to standing on the principles that we believe in, the desire to promoting what is good so that others can also see. Those things, the light that we manifest to us to shine as a star many a times in a life of challenge that we experience. The purpose. What is our purpose? What is my purpose? I believe that I was meant and created for love. I don't think I should have hatred in me. I think I was created to confess and repent if I do something that is not good to another person. Mr. Speaker, I think I'm also created to forgive other people easily. I also believe that I was created to respect others equally like myself. I believe that I should do things that cannot hurt somebody. Like Roy Biama, when he worked very hard, he made sure that he never misused the people's money. Like Roy Biama, when he worked, he never served his own purpose using the people's name. Like Roy Biama, when he was a minister, he administered his ministry responsibility with integrity. And Roy Biama lies before us today, this morning. The lesson that we can learn is the purpose that he lived. A man who lived and fulfilled his purpose, can we also live that purpose in our lives too? With the Bible right here in front of us. But does that give us the purpose? Or is it us within our character that we display the values in that Bible that gives us the purpose? Should we just pray today and every day in Parliament session and forget about it and making it become a routine in life? Or should we pray our actual life? And what we're praying is what we live. So, Mr. Speaker, I say let's celebrate, but also look at the purpose the one who's passing on lived. This man that lays before us today got elected on the 2002 elections and has been elected ever since, lays before us a footprint that can guide us. He is a light up in the sky, a light that we can see and follow that path to what is right. This country holds dear us as leaders to be lights, to be that love. Not to be like love, but to be that love. If we can be that love leadership, that purposeful, that leadership of truth, integrity and credibility, of hard work and perseverance, even suffering, like when I had the other time, the Prime Minister, Honorable James Marabe, talked of the late Roy Biama. He still had blisters on his foot. He was diabetic. He had been working night and day. He kept on working. Even in his perseverance, he's suffering to save a people that he promised and he gave his life to save. This kind of unselfish character is what this Parliament must look at and we follow. Let's be true. Let's be honest. Let's admit to ourselves if we have not followed that path. Let's follow the path that is true, that light, that perseverance, the saving people. When one Papua New Guinean dies over there, our hearts should bleed. We should be crying. When there's some money not there in the hospital, we should be worried. If the students are not getting quality education, we must be crying in our hearts. If we see people are fighting over there, we should be very, very sad. Even now, COVID-19, we support vaccination. We support all the efforts of the government and the health system to making sure our people don't die. Let's stay focused. Let's follow the light, the footprints that the Honorable Roy Biama has left for us to see and celebrate. So I conclude by saying, Roy Biama, we came together in 2002. We served together under the Grand Chief, Sir Michael Thomas Sumari. With some colleagues on the floor of Parliament today, you've served well. I salute you. Your footprints, the legacy that you've left will be celebrated. Your body will go down to the ground that turns into the elements of the air. The breath that was breathed into you will return back to where the Maker is. But your character will live on in our lives, and your family will be blessed by your character. Your wife will be blessed, although physically she will not see you, but she would live by your examples. And that example she will continue to entrench it into the children. Your children will live the examples. And some of us who worked with you the first day you entered politics in 2002, we trust and we value you. Goodbye. Farewell, Roy Biama. Farewell, brother. Bamahuta, Roy Biama. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Ijibitari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to join the honourable leaders of this House and convey our deepest sympathy to the family, the wife, the children of the late Honourable Roy Biama, and to also convey our deepest condolences to the people of Middle Fly and the people of Western Province on losing a wonderful but also a very silent achiever as a leader of this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I too just recently lost my mom. And one thing for sure is that as we pass through this world, Mr. Speaker, this is just a temporary home. And as we pass through this planet Earth that we call a temporary home, our measures of the things we do in life measure where we go after death. And Mr. Speaker, we know the Bible is very clear that states that God is the author. But in the book that he writes of our life, God does not write the book, even though he's the author. It's a book that each and every one of us write ourselves on our time on this earth. And it's that book that we write, Mr. Speaker, that will eventually judge us at the judgment day. We will write our own books, and those books will turn around and judge us. Mr. Speaker, we have a young leader here who served 4 terms in this House of Parliament. Many of us, particularly myself as a first-term MP in this House, Mr. Speaker, I've taken time to sit down with our late brother to ask him the secrets of how he had been re-elected 4 times into this House. And his response was very simple, Mr. Speaker. He said, you must continue to give and continue to serve, and your people will honor you and return you to this House. Mr. Speaker, this man was a very humble leader. He has inspired very few of us in this House. And on a few occasions, when I bumped into him along the corridors in this Parliament House, he always tended to have books in his hands. And every time I ask him what he was carrying, he always tells me, these are acquittals of the money I spent. He's one accountable leader in this House, Mr. Speaker. One quality that many of us must aspire to is to be accountable as leaders in this House. Accountable in our leadership. Accountable with the funding that we are given. Accountable to our people. And this leader portrayed those qualities. Silent qualities, but a quality that many of us must inherit. Mr. Speaker, the reason why his people loved him so much as well was that he engaged with his people. I can remember when Gogodalas are dancing, and there's this white man figure amongst the Gogodala people, and people are saying, "Wampla white man and Danis one time all Gogodala people." If you took the time and tried to pick out who this white guy was, you will always find that it was Honorable Roy Biama. He was so dedicated to his people. He loved his people so much. He served his people with distinction, Mr. Speaker. These are rare qualities in this House, Mr. Speaker. And whilst he lies here today, Mr. Speaker, he's leaving behind a lot of legacies, a lot of footprints, a lot of qualities that we as leaders must aspire to and lead by those qualities that he left behind us. Mr. Speaker, I respect this leader that has passed on. In fact, when he served as the Minister for CIS in his time in the last government, Mr. Speaker, I think I was the only one that ever asked him a question to his ministry. Mr. Speaker, his response, the quality he portrayed, the way he articulated, the way he leads, a lot of things that we as leaders must aspire to. He leaves behind a huge gap. He leaves behind something that can never be replaced because he's unique. God created him for a purpose. And I believe he's fulfilled that purpose in his life, and God has called him home. Mr. Speaker, we have a leader here today that we say farewell to. He may be physically gone, but he will be remembered in our minds and in our hearts. Farewell, brother. Rest in eternal peace. Lukimiu sampla time. Thank you.
Honorable Governor of Long Gulf.
Mr. Speaker, I too rise to offer my sincere and deep condolences on behalf of the people of Gulf Province, especially the tribe of Moripi, which is the tribe from which the spouse and of Mr. Biama comes from. So on their behalf, on behalf of the families, we thank Roy for his life. We thank him for the support that he has given to our families, our tribes, and for allowing our families and tribes at times in big numbers to live at Balimo town with him. Mr. Speaker, Roy is the epitome of what members of parliament should be. Members of parliament should be living in their district headquarters. They must have a home there. They must be the light of life in the provincial headquarters, in the district headquarters. They must make it their business to ensure that services are brought to those districts. I see Roy as only one out of the rest of us who have not done it. And his example far outshines many leaders that I know of, both past and present. That is the main reason why I believe his people, especially the people of Gogodala, have always retained him. Since 2002, when he joined myself and others when I was in my third term. Mr. Speaker, the late Roy died as a result of conditions relating to diabetes. It is a silent killer amongst many of us. Many of us, including myself, we carry that illness. It's an illness that afflicts leaders and afflicts many of us. And it is about time, Mr. Speaker, that through you, I ask the Minister for Health to see if it is possible to expose this sickness and ensure that there is a national awareness and campaign. Highlight it properly so that we know it not only as a sickness of sugar, but as a sickness, if not properly controlled, can lead to other serious complications of our organs. So, Mr. Speaker, on this sad day of us paying respect, I want to remind our authorities in the health department to ensure that we highlight this. But as I said, Roy is the epitome of what all of us should be. Roy was Mr. Balimo. Without Roy, there would be no Balimo. Balimo would not have been on the map. I want to thank all the prime ministers who listened to him, as quiet as he was, as steadfast as he was in his requests in the times that they gave to him. Sir Michael Somare, Peter O'Neill, and Prime Minister James Marape, for honoring the people of Balimo, ensuring funds were given for projects that to this day and into the future will be a legacy of the late honorable member and my Tambu. I hope and I trust that after 2022, the next member for Balimo will become like him, Mr. Balimo. I trust that all of us can be the leaders of our own districts and build our own provinces and the districts as the growth centers that they really should be. And that can only be achieved by our presence in spite of the many other duties we have outside of our electorates. We must make it a point to always be there at all times. My Vare, my Tambu, may you rest in eternal peace. Farewell.
The Honourable Member for Yalibu, Pange.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I too join the other leaders in expressing our condolence and great sorrow to the family of the late member, the Honorable Roy Biama, and to his family and district and to his province, his tribe, the Gogodala tribe, whom he has served distinguishedly for many, many years. I've been proud to know him since been elected to Parliament in 2002 together with him. I want his family and his tribe and his district to know that the late member served his country well, his people of Middle Fly well, and served the people of the province of Western Province well as well. Mr. Speaker, those of us who have been privileged to know him have known him as one of the most humble leaders on this floor and probably in this country. He's a simple leader, leader of the people who served with great humility, Mr. Speaker. I have never known him to have one ill word against his people or any other leader in this House. So it goes to show that a simple, humble leader serving with humility is a great example to all of us as one who can serve his people with high distinction, with humility as a servant of his people. Mr. Speaker, it's a great loss to the people of Middle Fly. This is a vacuum it will be very hard to replace. He has served under our government in various capacities as minister and as other members of the committee of this Honourable House, and he served them well, Mr. Speaker. But many a times he would choose to serve his people rather than serve in ministerial positions or higher positions in government. That is a great example of a leader who is wanting to serve his people as his top priority. So, Mr. Speaker, that is why it is a great and huge loss to the people of Middle Fly, and it is a vacuum that will be hard to replace. I have been to Balimo on many occasions with the leader, and I've seen his work. He has changed the face of Balimo and Middle Fly. Virtually, I would say single-handedly, building hospitals, building offices, building schools, building roads, and many of the investments that he has made on behalf of his people. That is a huge credit to the late leader, Mr. Speaker. One thing that, Mr. Speaker, stands out in my memory of the late leader is his passion as a Gogodala tribal chief, the proud tradition that he carried on of his ancestors, especially in the promotion of the display of the longboats the warriors of Gogodala used to showcase around the country. He was a great proponent of that, Mr. Speaker, and I'm certain that these tribesmen and women will see great examples of a leader who can serve them and proudly display their customs right across the country. So on behalf of PNC Party and, of course, all our supporters right throughout the country, the late member went to the elections in 2012 and 2017 with PNC. We are very grateful to the people of Middle Fly for their support of the leader, not only during our time, but the 4 terms that he has served his people in this honorable house. So, Mr. Speaker, we too join the other leaders in paying our greatest respect to this humble late leader, Mr. Speaker. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
The Honorable Governor for Western Province.
Thank you, through Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I rise to, on behalf of the people of Western Province and the people of Middle Fly and the people of Kogolara tribe, Balimo village, I stand on their behalf to acknowledge the outpouring of the condolences that have been said on the floor of Parliament, and those who are watching the live coverage and also commenting and sharing their condolences towards the loss of one of our members of Parliament and our leader from Western Province, the late Honorable Roy Biama. I would like to acknowledge you, Speaker, for giving our leader this respect to bring the casket in at this session. Milak talk big, thank you, you Speaker, and I'll stop you. One kind, Milak talk thank you, the Prime Minister. Lo show him big respect. Lo one the leader of me, na member of me lo Western Province time and put down. Thank you through the opposition leader. You selling condolences to you. Come lo me people lo Western Province, Middle Fly. Na the tribe of Kokodala. We acknowledge your condolences. Thank you to everyone that's spoken. Thank you, former Prime Minister. You've worked with him and you've known him and you've spoken, and every other colleague members that came in 2022. Thank you through lo you bless sharing experience lo you one time people of Western Province. Na Middle Fly. Plenty time people leader yet lo bless. Milo no sayo lo work lo member of Mila. And many times we criticize our members of Parliament. But it's through those experiences that you've said, the people back in Western Province, back in the Middle Fly district, and the Kokodalas will know who Roy Biama was. And I appreciate you all for sharing your experiences with him. We value your condolences, and I will pass it on to the people when I take the body home and present it to the family. We'll be laid to rest, for him to be laid to rest. But my little experience as a child growing up, Roy was a big brother to me. Him and I share same family lineage. And as such, I saw him as a big brother, and he came through life
not as a privileged kid. He struggled in life. To share a bit of his experience, I saw him pushing a wheelbarrow filled with ice blocks, selling ice blocks on the streets of Baltimore town. Now it's a town, but it used to be just outstation. And because of his upbringing, it shaped his heart and mind to be the leader that you describe who he was and who is gone now. Emmy struggled through life, and big man and put him in a situation so that M can understand him, life, and when he became a leader, he can see it from a different angle, so that M can straight him down the line of place. That's why he was very close to his people, very close to us. And as for us, he was like a role model. Time Black Sim government, when we were elected in 2017 and we came, myself and the two other members of parliament from Western Province, the three of us were new, and we came, and he was like a pillar or the pillar of our team. Kansem, seat lo fire. When the light stop, you bung in one time, but fire kirap. So he was like the seed of the fire. We just came in and we joined him. And he mentored us through 2017 till he left us. Nando something when me look him like him, he had a very strong will and mental power. Nothing incapacitated him. No got understanding and put him and go down. He was a hard worker. And yet, sa kirap Karim Hama, so mil na sa kokati diwa na waki class around. And because of that kind of character, time I'm sick, he didn't want that sick to let him down. He continued working. He would walk into this parliament with crutches, though he was sick. Now, before him losing life, he dressed up to come for a parliament sitting here. But he felt that he needed to go to the hospital. Time go, let me meet him, and then he stopped how sick, and I'm losing life. So, on behalf of the people of Western Province, the people of Middle Fly, the Gogolara tribe, and Balimo village, who are not here to acknowledge the outpouring of your condolences and sorrow and the sympathies that you've said, I would like to, on behalf of them, appreciate and acknowledge your condolences. I will take it home and I will pass it on to the loved ones who would be there to receive their father, their brother, their uncle, their cousin, and the people. With that, me like talk thank you. Lo you black give him kind respect. Lo one leader lo me. Na people lo me lo Western, but talk thank you lo. You speaker, Prime Minister, and our leaders lo. National government, na parliament. Thank you through.
Honorable Minister of Provincial Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me too. Me like talk sorry or solemn condolence. I go long, family belong. Late Roy Biama. Roy Biama. Lo me respect him and Mosem. He was a simple, sincere person that I've come across. And plenty talk finish leader me confirming Mosem no man belong talk. And RM tasol RM and 1+ something and make him different from some verses that a minimum blow talk. That's RM. That's all when he makes a decision, he stand by it. 1 decision and make him and talk him like go move way and like sleep way, KK way, stop way, and that's Roy Biama. He makes up his mind. He makes up his mind. Long me like talk thank you long or people belong. Goilala at middle fly. Me like talk thank you long or same. Only elect him on bla. Good bla leader. Leader is serving time until his death. Developing this less sick. Time Emiko elected Longen, and I traveled around Emiko Long. Digina, Emiko Karem Samblat, building materials, and Emiko walking stop this time and find him heavy and Bian come back, Nabian am sick, I'm losing life Longen. So he is a devoted leader, me. Or some Papa God bless him soul Longen. And give him time Longen until, despite his illness, he said his electorate well. Me like to thank you long all people long go I'm also Moldisla line tribe where plant the land me play go to school longen also our high school in been stopped. Time colonial time, me play no high school. This la time, online me play go school long. Our high school. This la time, or look at me play, na me play come back. Also likes of former Governor General. So we were Korowi, likes of late Peter people. All this la me play. School me play, high school me line me play, attending lo tamblo. That's all me too me not go. That's all this last time me play starting Yaribo High School me play start back. So me play talk thank you long all passing also him all good play line. Now good play line elect him good play leader. Passing long all genuine. Also him me talk thank you long all working also him good play passing. Now all elect him good play leader. Now finally, me like giving talk sorry belong me yet personally. Na all people belong in Bongo. Na also admire or support belong me right throughout. Me like talk sorry also. Me lose him one of the best person we have, and we lose him. So replacement come also meeting also Gorilla. Middle play, all good play line by replacing one black kind man or same. One them this play, my brother and my friend, your soul shall rest in peace. God bless you.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me too, like Rice Lo Johnny Mol, colleague, members Lo Flow said give him respect. Na Toksore Golong, leader. Na leader was saving country, na people blame very long time through. Me acknowledge him all. Talk sorry come from all senior members. Leaders were sharing flow and the même time will come in the parliament. Leader of opposition will make him some good blood talk. Former Prime Minister who said share him NEC government want the mem. Arpla leaders some Sepuka talk. Finance Minister talk plenty. Leaders who said share him parliament in some consecutive terms. I think member belong vegetarian talk as first time member. Me too like express him sorry blame or some first time member. Lodesla flow me share him. Parliament want a mem long close to number 4 coming to 5 years since all man Mary blame Makimi come some leader na league experience blame want them m. Mr. Speaker on behalf long people blame lo Finchafen family blame yet me like Salim talk sorry. Kolong family belong late Roy Biama. People belong him, tribe belong him. Me talk thank you through all family too. Have been supporting him long time. 20 years in politics is a very long time in politics. In nearly 5 years of politics in my term, it's like 500 years when it comes to Kari Metpen Dongol Man Mary, pen problem, you know, all these issues that we face as members. It's a very difficult life to live. And doing it for a long term is 20 years it's a great sacrifice for someone to do, and I just want to acknowledge him as a leader, and at the same time thank him. You gotta come to mama, so me talk thank you, Lord, Islam mama too, a Karim's leader, not knowing that at one time that his son would be a member of parliament, serving his people, calling to greater heights of leadership and responsibility. And I thank the family as well. If he served these people and at some stage would have sacrificed time, family time, to the family in our parliament. Thank you, Tro, for that sacrifice that he did, and the family too, in the sacrifice in spending time to serve his people in Middle Fly. Mr. Speaker, time is in on the Milukim Plantil senior leaders were sharing flow on the mem. Liklik experience plumbing want the mem. Time stop minister in the time people win na come the sharing Mr. flow. And same time vote of the conference and even really get to know him. Time he meet him no Laguna. One plug and man were very strong, firm, viewed person. And the greatest, I think, leadership trait blame was the ability to be humbled. Very humble spirit where you may plant a line. It's a very hard thing to have when you're a member of parliament or a politician or a minister, to have an attribute of humility, which is a very strong leadership trait that is promoted by the Bible, that most men must be humble. Now, this humble spirit blame one plug and distinctive character in this flow. At the same time, member belong, if the Tari talk about, books, all of us want us, when we end our lives, what sort of books will be written about us? Whether it be long books of our life, legacy, work, what we have done, what we have accomplished when we pass through this stage and to go to the next stage in our lives. Some of us, where star player might be a book, even to Bible to Togosem. Great books should be written to record all the things that we do on this earth. And some of us might expect a book to be written when we close that phase. Some we might expect books and we'll find that we are just a chapter in the book. Some we might find that we are just a paragraph in the chapter. Some we might be a sentence in the paragraph. Some we might be just words, and some we just be strokes in the writer's end. But whichever we are, we form something of a bigger picture and the purpose of life that we occupy. And I think, in my honest opinion, this member we meet him a few times was a very great spirit. And I think a lot has been written by him. When we all come to that stage, I think some great attributes will be written about him, about the simple spirit and the way he dedicated himself as a leader to his people in Western. And some of us who rub shoulders on this floor, he was a very humble person, and those attributes sometimes I think we ought to learn. And I thank all members on this side and the member of the opposite side. You may respect him. On behalf of Manmeri Blomi, na miet, me wish him my deepest condolences to a great leader who have passed on, the family blame, or members who are seated here witnessing this occasion. Miplo members and Miplo staff, Miplo Salim, Miplo Toksore, long family na on behalf of Manmeri Blomi, Mito Miplo Toksore long people long Middle Fly, and the 20-year service. I'm giving Miplo, acknowledge him on this floor, and this Lagan spirit can live on in our leadership characters as a great form of lesson Luyumi or members to the floor. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving look savel on me. Me like to sorry through the leader we Lucy Pla now. Thank you.
Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too raise to support those who have spoken earlier, to also express on behalf of my people in Kikori district to pass our sincerest condolence as well as deep sympathy to people of Balemo, Western Province, in the passing of this great but humble leader. I'm a first timer in this parliament, but I came to know this guy and have greatest respect of all the good things that have been spoken by all the leaders who have known him for a very long time, since 2002. I first served with him under PNC government as a minister for correctional services. And I came to know this great man, as former Prime Minister has expressed, a wonderful man, person who has so humble, but yet he has mind of his own, that he was able to express on behalf of the ministry that he was having and the leadership that he has provided. But thereafter, I came to know this person in many instances where not in a context in which officially, but personally. There are times that we spend times together, particularly at the time that leader of government business had made reference to, in a time of vote of no confidence, and we migrated to Oloat Island. And here was this great leader, quietly spoken, but steadfastness in his behavior, his attitude, person who was dedicated to whatever he thought was right. There are times that he expressed his concerns quietly, and I came to, respect this guy, and in a way I came to like this great man. Until, again, the government came to be what it is today. But there were times that both of us have discussed issues, one of which is that because we share districts, two districts that are side by side, we share provincial border. Kikori district, I have what is known as Turama River that share, Bamu River. And these are places that somewhat forgotten. These are back pages, backwaters of Papua New Guinea. There are no real development that has taken place in the last 45 years, and still up until now. Both of us share the dreams that we'll have road connection from Balimo to Kikori via Turama. And these were dreams that we've been sharing. We wanted to do that. Hopefully, we were hoping that we'll come back again in the next election so that two of us can work out programs insofar as connecting our two districts and two provinces together through Connect PNG program. It's very sad that he has passed on. I found him to be a reflection of what God's description of himself, person of humility, all the good things that Bible talks about. This guy has it. So on behalf of my people of Kikori district, my immediate family, I want to pass our deepest condolence and deep sadness to the family of late Roy Biama, his people of Balimo, his Mirofly constituency, as well as people of Western Province. Our deepest condolence as well as deep prayers. Roy, may your soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Honorable member for Northeast. Must be Northeast. Northwest, rather.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to take this moment to also join in all the leaders and former prime ministers to pass our sincere condolences to the family, the wife of the late Honorable Roy Biama, whom the family I had the privilege to meet when we went to visit the House cry with the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable James Marape. The reason why I'm standing up is to just say a few things that the late Honorable Roy Biama said to me. I didn't know Honorable Roy for a very long time, but as you know, this seat is empty because he sat next to me. And I first met the Honorable Roy Biama here, right here in this Honorable House. And he said a few things to me which I think will have a profound lasting on me. When I first met him, we shook hands, and as the Honorable Governor for Western Province had stated, he came in with crutches. And I knew that he was sick, but he never showed it. But a couple of things that he told me, he said, my small brother, welcome to the floor. Do not forget why you are here. Do not forget the exact reason why you're here. You're here to serve your people with two things, distinction and integrity. Do not forget the people of Motukoita whom you will represent, the people of Northwest, the Southern region, and Papua New Guinea. He said it in that order, which shows that all the great leaders who spoke this morning, that's the way he was. He was a man of his people, but he didn't forget his national duties. And I didn't know Honorable Roy for a very long time, but the few times that I had a chat with him, side to side, I met him here. And the last time I met him, he said goodbye to me because he was going to the house sick. And the following week, he closed his eyes. So Honorable Roy, thank you for your words of encouragement to a young and newly elected leader. I will do my best to serve my people as your advices and as your words of wisdom. People of Northwest and the people of Motukoita, we share in the grief, and we pass our condolences to your good family and the people of Middle Fly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me like Banisim Ogada talk long or leaders long this day long. Pasim talk sorry. Bel Lewai Brook Golong all family. Start one to Mrs. Belong the Honorable Roy Biama all Pikinini Blogan. Susa brother family tribe. Online long. Start one to Mohonville tribe. All people belong Gogodala. People belong Balimo, Middle Fly, Western Province. Pekla talk sorry through. Me looks all Pikinini. Mrs. No line sitting on top. Kisim Pekla Bell sorry. And we no amount of words we say will replace the vacuum the family will fill in your lives, but may the grace of God continue to be abound in your lives to ensure the vacuum is supplemented with His love and care. Me also like Pasim Toksoreg long people belong Middle Fly who have continually returned the leader into our house since 2002. He died serving his people to the fullest. The first time he was admitted into hospital that eventually led to his demise took place when he walked from Kamusi back to a place called Bamusta. He walked 8 hours. You know, I have some sort of appreciation of those areas, although not directly was in my growing up time, but I was up north. Father as a missionary, I have a fair appreciation of all these places. When you walk in those places in low humidity, it's not a pleasant walk. And he walked 8 hours from that side of his electorate back to Kamusi, back to Bamusa to get on a dinghy to come back to Baltimore. And in the middle of his walk, in hot time, blisters on his feet, the blisters blew out of proportion. He dehydrated, he lost energy, and because he had an underlying diabetic condition, he lost energy, was lifted, came to Daru, was stabilized into Port Moresby, and after about 5 or 6 months of medical care, including an amputation to one of his series of toes, he came back to Parliament carrying crutches to walk, and he walked to work for his people and for his country. What a testament to the brother who is lying in rest. He had his people right in his heart and on the sleeves of his hands as he labored in total service to his people. Humanly speaking, we tried to assist him to ensure he recovered fully, but God give it and God take it. When he was coming back from his medical care, I sat with him in more than one occasion and asked him, we will do the running around for you, please. You rest at the house. The telephone, the WhatsApp, we could send people to pick your papers, but he would on crutches. And in the first 3 months after he came out from hospital, you could obviously see he was not wearing shoes, he was wearing tongs. You could see blood associated with the band-aids that covered his feet that was amputated. He was in crutches all the way to the graves, working for his people. In fact, in one time I told him, you're 40, you could retire very well on pension. Why don't we move you on? And I reserve his conversation to me, that is something private, but all in the interest of saving his people. I served with him in the Sumara cabinet. I served with him in the O'Neill cabinet. 2012 going to 2012 elections, he had in his district more than 10 million kina in the account. Going to the 2017 election, he had in his district more than 17 million kina in the district account, I beg your pardon. And we used to ask him, why lumping all these funds together in the face of 5 years that is lapsing? He would say, the due process must run. And sometimes, and the Honorable Member for Abao did allude to, he had issues, ongoing issues with the public service at his district. And so with no apparent trust on the system for procurement, he would carry money into the next parliament. He is a man who spoke less, but his actions speak, his actions speak big in as far as what he wanted to do for his people and for the country. I take my hats off to the leader who is resting in rest. A couple of lessons I learned from his life as I worked with him. Number one, how he started off in life. Just like many of us who say this parliament, but more so as I am an advocate for Papua New Guineans to work hard in the SME space. He is one example of, through hard work and coming up from absolutely nothing into dying with being a self-made man. From the peddling ice blocks, and I confirm what the governor for Western Province did said, selling ice blocks at 5 toea and 10 toea in those days, he was telling me, as I camped with him one night in Balimo town. He said, I used to peddle ice blocks along this place, selling for 5 toea earlier and then 10 toea. From ice block peddling, he eventually ended up becoming a small trade store, and a big trade store operator, later becoming a warehouse wholesale operator in Balimo. A story of a self-made man from absolutely obscurity and nothing into becoming a successful man before politics. And his life in politics is well known, as we have alluded to. He died in the spirit of putting others first. At a first an experience when a ministry was offered to him in Lolowata, when numbers were restored, and thankfully those who stick around with us and saw the number restored in Lolowata, and we were in the business of reconstructing our cabinet. Our ministry was offered to him on behalf of Western Province, and he made this statement: I've had my turn. I'm in the sunset of my career. Groom our next leader and pass this ministry over to the Honorable Segi Agisa. Wow. What a powerful man. What a fine example for those of us who are questing for ministries. He was a man who put others out of himself and thought about the next generation and not himself. He was selfless. When it came to the office of a member for Middle Fly, as I said earlier, he carried crutches to his grave and folders for his people. And I am totally saddened of his passing, but nonetheless, I give my fullest commitment to the family, to the people, especially the people of Middle Fly, that his legacies and what he pledged to do will live on for his brothers, not just in the Pangu ranks, but his brothers in this current parliament on both sides have hold him in highest regards, and we will try our absolute best to ensure people of Middle Fly continues to be served in whatever capacity we hold. And for me as current Prime Minister and as head of this government, I give my fullest support to him. To my kaka from Yabaya, my brother, Ayatanapa Nagala Kilala. God bless.
The question is that the condolence motion moved by the leader of government business be agreed to. Would those in favor say aye? Aye. The ayes have it. As a mark of respect to the memory of the honorable gentleman, I invite all honorable members to rise in their places. I thank the Parliament. Sergeant, also in the Paul Beres. Mixim, Desla Moment Lot. Thank you, Parliament. Thank you, all family members for the Stablo Gallery. You block can move behind him cascade go. Thank you. Leader of Government Business.
Ask leave of Parliament to move a motion without notice.
Is leave granted? Leave granted. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I move that so much of the standing orders be suspended as would prevent notice number 246 and 196, government business being called forthwith.
Question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
Notice number 246, Minister for Environment, Conservation and Climate Change.
Minister for Environment, Conservation and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I present the Climate Change Management Amendment Bill 2021.
Mr. Clerk.
First reading, the bill for an act to amend the Climate Change Management Act 2015 and for related purposes.
Mr. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill be now read a second time.
Make your speech.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, it gives me great pleasure to present to the National Parliament today the amendments to the Climate Change Management Act 2015. By way of background, on the 31st July 2014, the National Executive Council in its decision number 229 of 2014 gave approval for the immediate development of a legislative framework
following the endorsement of the National Climate Compatible Development Management Policy to further strengthen the domestic institutional and governance framework for implementing climate change policies and measures. The Climate Change and Development Authority, or CCDA, was created following the enactment of the Climate Change Management Act 2015, later augmented by the United Nations Paris Agreement, Implementation Act 2016, and several other sectoral acts and subsequent regulations. Complementing these legal instruments, the government of Papua New Guinea developed various key overarching national strategies, policies, and legislations to address the effects of climate change and achieve sustainable management. The Climate Change Management Act 2015 is the principal piece of legislation that deals with climate change-related issues in Papua New Guinea. In 2016, Parliament enacted the United Nations Paris Agreement, Implementation Act 2016, to rectify and implement the Paris Agreement. Insofar as the United Nations Paris Agreement Act 2016 is concerned, the Paris Agreement will be implemented under both pieces of legislation with the institutional authority given over to the Climate Change Development Authority under the CCMA, or the Climate Change Management Act. The acts are now therefore complementary. It has been 5 years since the Climate Change Management Act 2015 was enacted. As it is good normal legislative practice, the legislation was reviewed over the past 2 years to capture latest developments on climate change internationally, as well as to capture public service and public finance reforms initiatives domestically. The legislative amendments to the Climate Change Management Act will demonstrate to foreign investors and the international community in general that Papua New Guinea, as a developing country, stand committed with its regional and global partners in addressing the adverse impacts of climate change and also develop climate resilience. The Climate Change Management Act 2015 was extensively reviewed and comments consolidated into drafting the instructions. These drafting instructions were then sent to the National Executive Council, which endorsed them on the 28th of May 2021 under NEC Decision 91/2021. This decision now paved the way for the drafting of the Climate Change Management Act Bill 2021, which I present before you today. The salient amendments in this new bill include capturing proceedings from the Paris Agreement and crystallizing it domestically, the legal distinction between climate finance and public finance, overseas development aid, provision for an emission trading regime, legal framework for the operations of the Green Climate Fund domestically, legal framework for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goal 13 roadmap, provision of a corporate plan and public register to facilitate for transparency, establishment of a Resilience and Green Growth Trust Fund, provision for a small grant facility for CBOs with the trust fund, provision for benefits sharing and carbon rights ownership, provision of a home ownership policy and scheme for CCDA staff, compliance with the Public Finance Management Act and National Procurement Act, taking note of the financial reforms, including latest developments with the Repeal Public Monies Management Regulations Act,
I believe that this amendment, Mr. Speaker, may be the first to accommodate financial reforms, increase in the board composition from 9 to 11 members, with ministerial appointee to sit on the board as well, tried as much as possible to include membership from all relevant stakeholders, including from both the public and private sector, provisions for assistance to the relocation of climate change-induced migration of people in the country, including the world's first climate change refugees from Carteret Islands, which I visited a few months back, provision for assistance to the relocation of climate change-induced migration of people within the Pacific Island countries as well. We are land rich, they are not. Let's help them in this time of need. Provisions to regulate blue carbon. Members, as you all may know, climate change is an existential threat much greater than the ravages of COVID-19. In actual fact, Mr. Speaker, may I say that COVID-19 is a consequence of climate change. This amendment will give us the political voice when attending the Conference of the Parties, or COP26 meeting in Glasgow, Scotland, later this year, which the Prime Minister has made a commitment to attend, and of course he'll be the delegation leader. It is also timely in that, following on from the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Assessment Report, which provides a high-level summary of the understanding of the current state of the climate, including how it is changing, and the role of human influence and the state of knowledge about possible climate futures, climate information relevant to regions and sectors, and limiting human-induced climate change and the need for our collective global actions to address. In that same regard, my ministry and CCDA will create climate change ambassadors' roles and envoys to mobilize actions and have these envoys based in Europe, America, and Asia to grasp opportunities emanating from the European Green Deal and American Green Deal as well. I therefore seek your support in endorsing the amendment to the Climate Change Management Act 2015. Thank you.
The Honourable Governor for Western Highlands.
Speaker, I think there are two serious issues facing the world. One is the COVID-19, and the other one is climate change. Mr. Deputy Speaker, climate change is real in the world. And I think we in Papua New Guinea can make a substantial contribution towards minimizing it, because we still have our forests, we still have land mass, we still can plant a lot of trees, and we can do a lot in PNG. Because when you look at the world now, it's moving into green energy, it's moving into other areas, and we are also lucky because the investors also looking at PNG in that area. And I think the minister himself has done a very good job. Minister, your tree planting program you started in Chimbu, in Western Islands, in NCD, and with all our schools in Papua New Guinea, Eastern Islands, in every part of Papua New Guinea, we have massive land where we need to really take a strong stand on this. And Minister, I supported your program, and we have been advising all our schools to plant trees, and that is the program for the future. Because if we do it successfully here, we can also trade. And I believe the other developing countries could assist us on this, because we will make a big contribution towards saving this planet. Papua New Guinea is a small country, but Papua New Guinea's tree forests are still there. And we need to assist the minister, and we need to take this matter very seriously, because you look at Mortlog Island, Rosal Island, all the small parts of PNG are slowly now sinking. And that will cause big problem for us with population movements. And you can see now that crops that used to not grow in the highlands today are growing up in the highlands today. You got cocoa in Karamui, in Jimmy. You're slowly getting coconuts up there. You're getting things like this. So it's a big issue for the country that we need to take the lead. And I'm glad the Prime Minister is taking the lead in all the international conferences, and all the heads of government that he's meeting is putting forward Papua New Guinea's case. And that case has to be eloquently presented so that these global powers must realize that Papua New Guinea has a major contribution to resolving this problem. So I fully support the Minister. Minister, you're doing a very good job. It was done by the former Minister, the Minister for Finance. He did a good, excellent job on environment, and now you're carrying this. I fully support what you're doing, and I want Parliament to really think seriously about this. COVID-19 is temporary, but climate change is serious, that it will really affect all of us. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Governor for his to speak.
Speaker, sorry. Me too like Tok Long, this plus situation na me agree with them Tok Long, Governor Long, Western Highlands. We have two serious situations facing the planet. But at home, we have some serious soul searching to do. The world is concerned about climate change, about what ravages it is bringing upon the planet. And there's going to be a COP26 conference to discuss climate change in Glasgow, Scotland, I think next month. Now, the world has been talking about climate change for a number of years, Mr. Acting Speaker, Deputy Speaker, sorry. And what's been happening is that there are many climate change deniers. Similar to, we have COVID-19 deniers now. But the skeptics of climate change are actually those people living in first world countries. And while we are keen, and I commend the Minister for bringing these amendments so that we can demonstrate to the world our relationship as an indigenous people, as a natural people with the environment. But beyond that, if we take a look at what we are doing with the amount of logging operations and forestry that are going on, Mr. Speaker, and I wanted to bring in an economic perspective. And I think the Parliament ought to take an economic solution to the leaders of the westernized countries and those who are the biggest polluters on the planet. We must be able to have some kind of a business arrangement. At the moment, we sell approximately 5 million cubic meters of log every year. Now, some years back, I understand while Honorable O'Neill was the Prime Minister, there was a decision to stop all round log exports by 2020. I think that decision was taken by the O'Neill government. That deadline has lapsed, and as I stand here, we are still shipping round logs. We never met our own target of stopping round log exports. We never even moved our logging operators to downstream processing so that we could get more for our people, more for our economy. Now, as it stands, we are selling our logs on the open market at about $90 a cubic meter. So that means our entire logging industry is worth about $450 million US, Mr. Speaker. I would like our Parliament, our leaders in this House, to go a step further. The team that is going to Glasgow for COP26, we should go and make an offer to the polluters of the planet. And as a group of leaders, we must be strong enough to agree that we are willing to stop all logging in our country. But in exchange for that, in exchange for filtering the carbon dioxide out of the air, there is a $200 million global climate fund that the world keeps talking about. Why can't the world give us some of that money so we can agree to stop the logging? We are not the ones polluting the planet.
but by the actions that are going on here, because we need to buy medicines, we need to build roads. Our people, our population is growing. We need more and more things, Mr. Speaker. The question is, how do we pay for it? Well, we have to sell our logs. We have to plunder our oceans. We have no choice. So rather than us having another whirlwind spinning trip to go and drink some whiskey in Scotland, we should go with some concrete suggestions for the planet and for the leaders of the net polluting countries. And that should be to offer to stop all logging in our country. And for that, part of this $200 billion that the world keeps talking about needs to be given in consideration so we can replace what we are losing if we shut down the logging operations for good. We see too many transgressions in the area of logging. These operations are happening in areas where we can't even get policemen to. We don't have public servants there. We hear about the beatings of our people, our landowners. We hear about them, but we have no way of proving if this is actually happening or not. So while I commend the work of the Environment Minister, I think it's important. I also think that we should be bringing some concrete suggestions to the world. You mean talk, nothing, 20 years. I remember the first climate change conference in Indonesia, when the late Grand Chief Sir Michael Somare was the Prime Minister. And there was an agreement signed in Jakarta. And this is some 20 years later. We have not progressed very much on that agreement. Now, if we are just going to keep talking and talking and talking without really giving legs to the intentions that we have, I'm really wasting time, Kenya. Traveler group by go around nothing long. Scotland na. By me go sigan na talk hello na story na. Brother na, you me come back na, nothing will happen again. So I suggest, if our good minister can move beyond just us passing this legislation, to take an endorsement from this House, to actually go and have a solid agreement with the countries of the planet that are polluting it, that are killing it, and let's stop our logging. But in recognition of that, we should lobby strongly to get part of that $200 billion that the world has put aside in the Global Climate Fund. Na karami kam lo here. Now you may replace him revenue blongol, national government revenue blongol landowners, the forest owners, and of course the provincial governments. We must do something like that. Otherwise you may talk, nothing. That, Mr. Speaker, is the contribution I wanted to make on this subject. With that, I fully endorse the amendments brought by the good minister, Honorable Wera Mori.
Governor for Oro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I rise to add some comments in regards to this very important subject matter. And I also wish to support the minister, but I have a few concerns that I want to raise here in regards to the performance of his ministry, the Office of Climate Change. As stated by Governors Winty and Bird, climate change is a reality. And I think the rest of the world, the learned experts, have already concluded that it is such a reality that its impact on this world is reaching a stage where life on Earth as we know it is going to drastically change. You have the melting of the polar ice caps contributing to rising sea levels and strange weather patterns occurring around the world. Recently, for instance, there was a heat wave in Canada. 500 deaths are attributed to that heat wave. It occurred some months ago. Bushfires, more than 80 raging in Turkey. Floods that wiped out a village in Western Europe and killed 130 people. And of course, COVID. There are many such examples. These are alarm bells, red flags being raised, that we as humans are reaching, or perhaps we've already reached, what are known or what is known as the tipping points the points of no return. We as a forest people, we as a nation where the greater majority of our people live in the rural areas, in forested areas, we have to pay attention to what is happening around the world, and indeed what is happening in our own country. For instance, as stated by the Minister, what is happening in the Carteret Islands, where the rising sea levels have made it impossible for the people to sustain a life there. And so now they have been transported from that island to the mainland. But while all of this is going on and we're all concerned, illegal logging is still rampant in this country. We have had 2 inquiries. First was the Barnett inquiry. And in that inquiry, it's quite instructive as to how the people or how the players involved in this industry treat our country and our laws with contempt. It's quite interesting. I urge leaders to revisit that inquiry and pay some attention to what happened during that inquiry. For instance, the fraud squad office was burnt to the ground. The forestry office was burgled. The forest minister was threatened with assassination. And Tos Barnett himself was stabbed and he had to be medevaced to Australia. That's what happened as a consequence of that inquiry. And nothing happened after that inquiry. None of the recommendations were acted upon. Those same characters are still here. And they grow stronger each day. And they manipulate quite a significant sector, or quite a significant area in our public sector, in our public service. We have the SABL inquiry in 2011. That came about from an outcry by landowners about the theft of their land, significant portions. More than 5 million hectares, 10% of Papua New Guinea, was taken without free or prior informed consent. We spent almost 17 million kina on this inquiry. Nothing happened. Our government was changed, though. So what are we going to do? As stated by Governor Bird, the declared date or year for the banning of round log exports was 2020. We've now extended it to 2025. I think we must make a commitment that we cannot extend beyond that. Do we not own this country? Who's in charge of this country? What are we scared of? What is the point of 16 September 1975 if we cannot control our country? If we allow anybody and anyone to come in here and do as they please in breach of our laws, the way they treat our people, using our own state entities. Minister, your organization, for instance, we have reported about illegal logging and the consequences on the environment. None of your officers have paid a visit to these areas to carry out an assessment or an investigation to find out what is the reality on the ground. That's the same with the Forest Ministry and the Lands Ministry and the Agricultural Ministry. I have tabled reports after reports. Who's in charge of this country? And we are losing these forests as we speak. And the landowners cannot go to court because they can't afford lawyers. And the people they are against are very powerful entities. They get the best lawyers. I'm in court already. I've got 2 cases against me. For what? For standing up on behalf of my people. Because my government agencies are not supporting me. They're not standing with me. And what's the point of passing all these laws if we cannot enforce them? What is the point of having all these organizations? I mean, you think about it. Conservation and Environment Protection Authority. What do those words mean? What are we out there protecting? What are we out there conserving? We have had many committees and task force to implement the recommendations from these inquiries. Nothing has happened. Minister for Justice, I urge you to put together a team and get all these inquiries and do something about these inquiries so that justice can be delivered to our people. It is the desire for justice that triggers these inquiries. And we do well in carrying out these inquiries. We fund these inquiries, we get experts to put these inquiries together. They do a magnificent job. They do investigations, they prepare these amazing reports that are tabled in Parliament, and after that, nothing is done. The entire process has to be completed, which means the recommendations must be dealt with by us. That is why we are here. Didn't we enter Parliament to protect and promote PNG interests? Then how can we turn a blind eye to what is happening in here? It's as if our country has been recolonized and we're asleep at the wheel and we don't know it. Are we not an independent country? What's the point of passing all these laws and having all these organizations and all these public servants and all these mechanisms that are supposedly created for the purposes of protecting PNG interests, but turn a blind eye to the very people that we represent in this House? We house the third largest rainforest in the world, 7% of the world's biodiversity. We pump out enough oxygen for 80 million people in this world. We are contributing significantly to the lungs of the world, the breathing apparatus of this world. And at this very moment with COVID, we should be empathizing, because what does COVID do? It attacks you and your breathing apparatus, your lungs. You can't breathe. And that's what we have been doing to this earth. And we have a platform to stand on and speak. And I want to commend the Prime Minister. I'm proud of the Prime Minister. He has made mention of this at United Nations. He has decided that he is going to step up and speak. Thank you, Prime Minister. But I want you ministers to support our Prime Minister. Do your part in your responsible areas of management. In regards to the activities of the Office of Climate Change, Minister, I have it upon very reliable information that there are organizations that are trading using our information and our forest and generating revenues for themselves at our expense. We don't even know about this. If we're going to be involved in the business of carbon trade, for instance, where we offer our forests in trade and say, we, the custodians and stewards of these rainforests, we will protect this forest. And we're wanting to go into the business of monetizing from our forests, not liquidating our forests, which is what we have been doing. There must be a fair trade. Then we must work on the carbon price. The current carbon price is a disincentive. It's not an incentive. It's pegged at between $5 and $35 per atmospheric carbon cubic meter. That's a joke. It should be far higher at $80 plus. Then we have to engage with reputable, reliable organizations that will work with us. Not carbon cowboys. We have a lot of those coming into this country because all types of creatures come into this country and do whatever they want. Our borders are wide open. Anyone can come here and do business. So we must have a means by which we can screen these type of characters that are coming into this country. We must have a national register. We must ensure that there is free and prior informed consent. There must be adequate information given to our people so that they understand what is happening to their resources and how they stand to benefit, and the very vital, important role they play in this world as custodians and stewards of this amazing forest that we have. That has to happen, Minister. You have to have those mechanisms in place. There are too many carbon cowboys running in and out of your office, Minister. We have to filter this riffraff out and put in place genuine people who know what they're doing and who will partner with us and work with us. I will be accompanying the Prime Minister to COP26. Governor Bird, I assure you We are not going there just to shake hands and talk to people. We are going to speak to the world and let them know that yes, we have this forest and this amazing biodiversity, but let's trade. We may be cash poor, but we're natural resource rich. You may be cash rich, but you're natural resource poor. Let's trade. Meanwhile, back home, we have to make a significant effort at stepping up and being the responsible leaders that we are supposed to be in this house. And we must protect the interests of this country jealously, without fear or favor, 247-365, for as long as we are here. We cannot allow criminal cartels to come and run this country and do as they please. Do you not see this? They're already doing this. They don't pay their taxes. They transgress on traditional landowners' land without their consent. And when they raise their voices, they send our own police to go and brutalize them. Then they tie us up in our own court systems. What is going on? Some of us are getting sick and tired of them, and we're getting sick and tired of the way that things are done in such a way that it entertains them against us, those who are genuine. Minister, I want to encourage you to continue with your reforms. You have done magnificently by traveling around the country and seeing for yourself firsthand what is happening. But your officers are not following in your footsteps. You're running 100 miles ahead and they're running in the opposite direction. What's going on? They are supposed to go down on the ground and do inspections and investigations. They are supposed to be connected to the people and listen to the people. They are not doing that. So I will support this bill, Minister, but I will be very critical of how it operates, and I assure you, on behalf of the people of Oro, we are going to, and on behalf of the people of Papua New Guinea, those from forested areas, those whose voices we often ignore in here and out there in the government departments, where our public servants who are supposed to be the secondary gatekeepers of our economy are failing our people. We can broker better deals. We can monetize our forests. We can protect our biodiversity. And there are nations and organizations that are willing to do that. And let me tell you, Deputy Speaker, for the last 20 years, we have missed out. We have missed out on significant funds that were actually available to us. They're actually available to us. In the vicinity of $200 million a year. For the last 20 years, that's a total of 6 billion kina. We have missed out. Why? Simply because we have failed to deliver the necessary requirements in paper, in documentation, in presentations to the appropriate organizations. Minister, you have to get your staff to start looking into this. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Esteemed leaders, forgive me if you see that I am a little bit passionate about what is happening in my country, but I have seen it in my province and I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of the way these people are behaving in my province. And I'm sick and tired of the fact that my own brother ministers in here continue to ignore all these reports that I've been tabling in their offices. I have taken court cases on behalf of my landowners. And we are stuck in court, and none of these ministries are assisting me. Prime Minister, your ministers are not listening to us. They are not listening to their people. Truly. I want all of us to remember that we have a wonderful nation, beautiful nation, with amazing resources. It's worth protecting, it's worth fighting for. And our people deserve our very best. And we must listen to them at all times, not ignore them and abandon them at the doorways of Parliament. We must listen to them, their pleas, their cries, and attend to them. They rely on us. They have voted us because they feel that we are leaders. So we must act as such. And our role as leaders is to protect their future, is to protect their interest, is to fight for them, not against them, not to turn a blind eye while our own state forces abuse them and oppress them and suppress them.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Governor for Gulf.
Mr. Speaker, me like welcome to talk was supporting minister. We feel also you mean round the globe, Musky globe. Minister he kiss him amendments he come long act. Let's talk about that act, the amendments that are there. I want to thank the minister. You are setting up the legal framework in which all these problems that we're talking about can be resolved. Minister, I fully support you. I look forward to looking at the frameworks that you are establishing. I want to ask you to clarify, one, whether you know how many other climate refugees that are there in PNG, apart from the Cataract Islands that you've gone to. In that respect, Minister, I want to invite you straight after this session of Parliament with the member for Kikori and Minister of Foreign Affairs to join me and come to Gulf Province. We already have a number of villages that are becoming climate refugees. In Kerema district, we have Lese Avihara, we have Lese Kavora, we have Kukipi, St. Macaris village, we have right at the point of Kerema town, Ipisi village. In Kikori district, we have West Balala, we have Mariki village, and we have Veraibari village. There are other small villages as well. These villages have been destroyed by high tides and by waves. So, Minister, I ask you in this legislation to come up with the proper guidelines and the policies to assess and to assist villages in my province and in other parts of the country that are going to face these issues as climate change continues to occur. Minister, I also want you to look at villages on the banks of rivers where we have major siltations occurring on the banks of a Strickland River and the banks of a Fly River, where mining is continuing, and in the Fly in the year 2050, the bulk of the siltation of the Fly River will be at the mouth of the Fly River, causing extensive damage to villages in the delta of the Fly on the banks of a river. They may no longer be there anymore, and they will also become climate refugees. Minister, in your explanatory notes, can you also tell us the change in membership that you have made and what stakeholders are there that you have included that are there? But I would urge you to ensure that there is provincial representation, that the provinces have the landmass and feel the effects of climate change, and you must have, in my view, a representative from whether it's provincial affairs or from one of the provinces or the 4 regions of this country that will give you and the board a fair idea of what is happening. With those few remarks, Minister, I fully support the amendments that you made, because now we have major developers that are also proposing frameworks for their own offset of carbons. Total last week came and did a presentation, and I'm sure that ExxonMobil will follow. We have Fortescue that is trying to do green energy by damming the major rivers of our country. And I hope and trust that we take the cue of the Prime Minister in his address to the United Nations, has given the clearest picture and direction of what we should be doing as a nation in the climate change area. With those few remarks, Minister, good on you. And once again, my invitation is open to you to come and see for yourself what is happening along my coastline. Thank you.
Question, the question here is that question be put. Those in favor say aye. I have it. Clerk.
Second.
The question is that the bill now be read the second time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I have it. Clerk.
Second reading. A bill for an act to amend the Climate Change Management Act 2015 and for related purposes.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I ask leave of the Parliament to move the third reading forthwith.
Is the leave granted? Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move that the bill be read a third time.
The question is that the question be put. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I have it. The question is that the bill now be read the third time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I have it. Clerk.
Third reading. A bill for an act to amend the Climate Change Management Act 2015 and for related purposes.
Thank you, Minister. Clerk.
Notice number 196, Minister for Health and HIV/AIDS.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I present the Curfew Amendment Bill 2020.
Clerk.
First reading, a bill for an act to amend the Curfew Act 1987.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill be now read a second time.
Made your speech.
Mr. Speaker, this bill, the Curfew Amendment Bill for 2020, is to allow to make amendments to the Curfew Act of 1987 with a provision of this act for it not to apply to the National Pandemic Bill. This allows the provincial controllers to assess the situation of the COVID-19 virus movement within the provinces. And if they feel that there's too much movement, as we all know, that the virus moves with people, they will be allowed to put a curfew within the provinces. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The question is that the question be put. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. The question is that the bill now be read the second time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Honourable Member, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I don't think we've received a copy of the amendment, and it would be improper for us to pass a bill that we have not read. With all due respect to the Minister, of course. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Governor, the bill has been already circulated to all members on the 11th of 6/2020, and it's already on the notice paper. So the bill will be entertained by Parliament. Clerk, second reading.
Second reading, a bill for an act to amend the Curfew Act 1987.
Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I ask leave of Parliament to move the third reading forthwith.
Is the leave granted? Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move that the bill is now read a third time.
Question is that a question be put. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The question is that the bill now be read the third time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Clerk.
Third reading, a bill for an act to amend the Curfew Act 1987.
Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, thank you long. All members law attending this Parliament, opposition leader, what the members law, side limit law, Arab government, limit law this side. Now, thank you law, 2 or 3 play important piece of legislation in me passing to, and the support that we had on the floor as well. Thus, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move that Parliament, as it's rising, adjourn to Tuesday, 16th November 2021 at 2:00 p.m.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Honourable members, before I adjourn Parliament, I wish to inform all members that the Electoral Commissioner will be giving a briefing on the 2022 National General Election at the State Function Room after this meeting. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move also me adjourn in Parliament go 16th November, long 2 o'clock p.m.
Honorable members, Parliament is now at it. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Honorable members, the Parliament now is at its rising until November 16, 2021, 2 o'clock p.m.